Hi, this is Cheryl McQueen, designer with Bello's Designs. My video tutorial today uses the Lavinia bottle stencil found in the Stencils 6 package. This is a fun card in which the mice decide to do a great escape for all of their friends that are inside of the terrarium. I hope you have fun making this card. So let's take a look at the supplies that I'm going to be using today. We will use a Lavinia Multifarious Smooth and Supreme cardstock, and I have cut this piece to be 6.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Then to form our frame, I just took a piece of white cardstock, and this one I have cut to 6 3/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches. For our card base, we will just use another piece of cardstock, and we will cut this one to be 11 inches by 7 inches. And then we will fold this in half to create our card base. We will be using quite a few stamps, and I have just gone ahead and stamped them out here for you. I'm going to go ahead and zoom this out just a little bit. And you can obviously, with some of the foliage, if you'd like, you can substitute for what you may have, but these are the ones that I've used, and I think they turned out beautiful. We will be using the snail, which is LAV 433, Flutterby, which is LAV 444, the bee, LAV 132. Then we have this set, which is LAV 857, which has some stones and some grass mounds and a lovely little foliage there. Other pieces of foliage that we will use will be the lavender, which is LAV 093. This package has this little nice piece that is very light and floaty, and it's called LAV 698. Then we have the cherry blossom, which is LAV 015. The oak leaves, LAV 763. Then we've used a cork from the package that's LAV 861. And then I have chosen a couple of mice, LAV 727 and LAV 726. And then I decided to add just a little bit of a path within the card, and this is actually a cardio stamp. It's called Tattered Trail. It has a very long number. It's CC STTAT-01. We will be using the Lavinia sticker stencils. I have chosen to use the one that has a little bit flatter edge so that I can turn it on its side. So this, again, is a sticker stencil 6. We will be using some distress inks today. I have chosen to use black soot, hickory smoke, mowed lawn, Salvaged patina, pine needles, salty ocean, and walnut stain. For our basic stamping, we will use the Versifying Clair Nocturne. We will also use some of the white titanium in the pan pastels. I will be using some blending brushes and a few just little small daubers. We will also use some art markers to do a little bit of the coloring on our project, as well as a couple of color pencils. I'm also going to be using the Sakura Jelly Roll, one of the little glitter pens, just to add a little bit of sparkle to the glass. I'll also be using a fine tip black pen. I'll be using a hill mask as well. I went ahead and created my own, but you can find some fabulous hill masks on the Lavinia site, and I will be using both sides of my piece that I have cut. We will also be cutting out, and I did this because I wanted to make sure that when I went over the edge of my bottle that this would mask out. my leaves or anything that might go outside of the bottle. And I did this because the paper doesn't leave a white line around it. Sometimes when you use the plastic stencils, you get a little bit of that white line. Okay, to put our card together, we will go ahead and just use an adhesive running tape, or you can use paper glue or what you have on hand for that. All right, I think we are ready to roll on this, so let's get started working on our project for the Great Escape. I'm going to zoom this back in so you'll be able to see a little better as I'm doing the work. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and prepare our background. So I'm going to take my piece of art cardstock, the Lavinia multifarious, and we will start out by taking our hill mask. And like I said, I've just used a couple of pieces of paper, but you can use the hill mask that Lavinia has as well. So I'm going to put this down on my card, probably somewhere around there, about 2/3 maybe of the way. Now, I sometimes like to go ahead and just use a little bit of tape to stick both my card and my mask down, just because I'm pretty unsteady sometimes when I do that, and therefore I shake my card around and get off my stenciling area. So I just like to have a little bit of insurance there. So let's tape those down. And with that taped down, then what I'm going to do is take the Mowed Lawn, Mowed Lawn, and the Salvaged Patina. So we'll start with Salvaged Patina to do our sky, and then what I'll do is I will switch it around and put this mask here so that I can do the ground. And basically all I'm going to do is take my blending brush and just blend it all out, both on the top and on the bottom, with my Salvaged Patina and my Mowed Lawn. Okay, so now we have our basic pattern down with the sky background and the grass background. So we can go ahead, and now I'm going to clean up my surface just a little bit here so that I don't get any smearing around of the colors. Swipe that up real quick. And now we're going to move on to our bottle. So we will place our card back down, and I'm going to go ahead and keep that little piece of tape on the back there. Move that up just a little bit. All right, and now we're going to move on to our sticker stencils. And again, this is from the Lavinia Stencil 6. So you will see that it comes with a film on the back. Sometimes it's a little hard to see that film the very first time that you peel it off. So just peel off your little pieces here, and we're going to start out and use the void piece. So what we're going to want to do is lay this down a little bit over here, fairly close to the left-hand side. Just stick that down. Onto our card. Now I'm going to take the Hickory Smoke, and with that I'm going to go ahead and use a little dauber. Let me grab my dauber here, and we're just going to kind of go around the edge just to create the look that it is a bottle in the shape. We don't want to use a really dark color because we want it to give it that effect that it's a clear bottle. So we're just going to start by slowly going around the edge with the hickory smoke. Okay, so now we've kind of got that nice little filmy edge look to create the bottle. So when you're looking through the bottle, the color is obviously not going to be the exact same because the light's going to change the refraction a little bit. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and go in and just add a little bit of color to darken it up just a little bit. So let's take some of the Salty Ocean. And just add a little bit on the sky part of it. And with this, you don't even necessarily need to make it solid, because obviously when you're looking through the glass, it's not going to look solid. It's going to just pick up a little bit of the light as it comes through. So I'm not going to necessarily make it really nice and solid with this hickory smoke. With this Salty Ocean. I'm just going to do enough that we get the impression that we're looking through the glass. It almost makes it look a little bit like it's like a little cloudy effect. All right. And now we're going to do the exact same thing with the pine needles. And put that over the green on our part inside the bottle. So I'm going to take that, just add a little bit more darkness there. And if you want to make sure that you don't get up into your sky, you can always take your mask back here and just lay it down to make sure that we're just getting the green on the green part. Again, all we're trying to do is just make it slightly darker to give the impression that we're looking through the bottle. Maybe just a little bit more down here at the bottom. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add in some dirt down at the bottom of our little bottle here to show the terrarium style to it. So we're going to take our walnut stain. And let's see. I'm trying to decide if I want to use a dauber. I think I'm just going to use a brush. And because I don't want the brown to get too high up, again, I'm going to just take the edge. I'm going to use the straight edge this time for masking that off a little bit. And let's see, let's find a clean brush here. And we're going to take our walnut stain. Add that dirt. And then to give it a little bit more richness, we're going to go ahead and put just a touch of the black soot there. I'm just going to use a little dauber and just put some spots of the darker in there just to kind of give that dirt some richness. All right. Fantastic. Now let's see what we can do about starting to put some of our stamps on. So at this point we're going to go ahead and remove our mask. And we will also remove our bottle stencil and set them out of the way. Now for this part, we will just go ahead and start placing our creatures and our foliage in there. So what I'm going to do is start out by putting in the snail, the butterfly, and the bee, and then we can work our foliage kind of around that. And I am actually going to go ahead and get out my stamping platform. Move those out of the way. Oops, I just set that down on my poor little snail. All right, get our stamping platform out. I'm going to lay my card down on my stamping platform. And as you can probably see here, I have got a sticky grid down. That keeps me from having to use magnets. This keeps it stuck down and I don't have to worry about moving the magnets all around. So we're going to start out by putting our little snail right down here on the right hand corner. And then we will put the rest of our little creatures in and then do our foliage. Okay, so now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take my mask that I cut out of paper and just lay that down. Like I said, what I want to do is make sure that my foliage doesn't come out and get into the area outside of the bottle. And we want to make sure that we don't get that white edge when you use a plastic stencil. So that's why I always cut out my own when I do some kind of project like this when I've got a plastic stencil. The stencil will work. You just usually get that kind of a little ghost, I call it a ghost shadow around the edge. So we'll just put this down and then we will go ahead and start putting in our foliage. So you probably noticed that I masked out some of the areas where I wanted it to look like the foliage was higher back or back further in the background. So that's just basically taking a piece of paper and covering up the part where you don't want the stamp to be. So now we have got all of our creatures into our bottle. So we can go ahead and take off our bottle mask here. Now, one of the nice things about having a fine tip black pen is that if you felt like you needed to touch up, which you probably saw me touch that up and bring that down just a little bit, then it's very easy to do. And like even with this rock, I'm going to go ahead and round it just a little bit. This little pathway, and then just add a little bit of the ink in there. Just make it look a little bit more finished. So it's very nice and handy to have this, and this is a very, very fine point one, so I really love using that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and color in with our markers a little bit of our foliage and give it just a little bit of pop of color. Let's start out with, how about some yellow? And I'm just going to add the yellow on my little bee. And then we will go in and add a little bit more color to our things to give it just a little bit of a pop. Okay, now let's go ahead and just sparkle up our bees' wings a little bit to give them that iridescent look with the Sakura glitter pen. It'll probably be hard to see on the video here, the sparkle that we put in there. I'll try to see if I can get it to angle a little bit where you can kind of see. There it is, a little bit of sparkle there. All right, so now we are ready to go ahead and move on to our elements on the outside of our bottle, and then at the end we'll come in and actually give the bottle a little bit more of a clear feel to it. All right, so let's go ahead and take our rocks, because we want something to kind of support our bottle, to kind of look like it's just propped up against the bottle. So I'm just going to take that and put it right at the edge so it looks like my bottle is resting on the rocks. And we will ink up that stamp and stamp it. Right. And then I'm just probably, I think the easiest thing to do to give our rocks a little bit of color is to just add, let's see, I think I want a kind of a light gray. Let's see if I've got a good light gray here that we could use in my colors. Let's try that one, see what that looks like. Just go in there. Get some gray in there. And I'll go back in those darker areas, go over just a little bit to give that shadow effect. The depth. All right. So now we've got our rocks in there, and we can begin to go ahead and put a little bit of this outside foliage in. So let's just take a little piece right here, and in this case we want to go over the top of the bottle so that it looks like it's on the outside. I'm not showing you the inking up of my stamps because that just takes the extra time to move my platform over so you can see, but you know what I'm doing over there. Alright, and now let's do just a little bit of one coming up over here by the rocks. And maybe one just right over here on the outside edge. Alright, and so now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do our cork. Now with our cork, we want it to look like part of the cork is inside the bottle. So that's where I'm going to take the other little part of my stencil that I had cut out and just place that over it. And I'm going to take my cork and just line it up over the top of that. Let me go ahead and put just a tiny piece of tape just to hold it. And then when I ink that up, what will happen is the main part of the inking is going to be outside of where I've got that mask. Then when we lift that up and remove this, we will try to do a second generation. And that's where it looks like that the other part of the cork is inside the bottle. Alright, and now we will look at going ahead and putting our mice and the rest of our foliage in. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our mouse that's got his arms fairly close together because we want it to look like he is trying to pull that stopper out. So I'm going to line him up where it looks like his hands are on the stopper. And then we'll ink him up. Alright, I'm going to give him just a little second coat, just so he's a little bit darker there, up against the cork. Alright. And now we need to do his little friend that he is standing on, that's supporting him. So he's kind of standing on his head there. So just line it up so that it looks like he's holding him up. All right. So now we are down to where I'm just going to go ahead and fill in, as you can see on this one, some leaves up here, and then I will color them in. And then at that point, we'll be able to put in the little final touches that will really finish this up to looking great. Okay, so now we're down to some of our finishing touches here. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of brown on my cork here. This is actually kind of a more of a light, very, very light tannish brown, or a warm gray, I guess you might call it. But let's just get a little color into that. And now we're going to go ahead and just do a little bit of grounding on our mice and on our bottle. So we'll start out by taking our fine tip pen and just drawing some little grassy areas, some little grounding here, so that it doesn't look like our mice and our plants are just floating up in the air. Same thing around our rocks. And around the base of our bottle. Maybe put a few taller sprigs along the base of our bottle as well. And let's ground this plant. Maybe even put just a little bit around our little like I said, we just kind of want it to have a little bit more of a realistic little look to it. All right. And now let's go ahead and work on getting our bottle to look just a little bit more along the lines of a bottle that's got a little bit of a reflection. And actually, I think first I am going to go ahead and put down a little bit of shadowing under the bottle where it's kind of resting on the ground. And put a little bit around the rocks. And then just a few shadows where our mice are up in the air. Now, in order to get kind of the look of looking through the bottle, I'm going to take some of my pan pastels and just a little cotton bud Q-tip thing here. And we're just going to kind of go around the edge part, more or less creating almost like the little reflection of the edge of the bottle. So just take it up. And you may not be able to see it quite as clearly on the video here, but as you do this, you'll see it on your card. And it's just basically to give that image that it's actually glass. And you can do just a little bit kind of misting through the rest of the bottle as well, just a few places. Again, that just kind of gives you an idea. Let's see if you can kind of see it, because it is very light. But it's just enough to kind of give that little look that we want. Excuse me, got a tickle there. All right, and then just to give that, once again, a little bit more of the look of the glass, I'm going to take the glitter pen and just kind of go along kind of some of those areas along the edge again. And just kind of put a little bit of a glitter look. Gives a little bit more image of the light reflecting off the edge of the bottle. You don't have to do a whole lot. You're just kind of looking for a little hint of it. Let's see if I can get it where you can see just a little bit of glimmers there of the glitter look. All right, that looks great. Isn't that fun? All right, so now let's go ahead and just put our card together. We will take our frame piece first. And I am going to go ahead and wipe one more time just to make sure that I don't have anything on my work surface, so that when we lay our card face down. Now, if you would like to, sometimes the pan pastel, you might feel like it's not going to stay on there very well. You can spray just a light coating of like hairspray or the Krylon fixative stuff that will help the pan pastel to stay just a little bit better. So let's turn our card over and grab our adhesive. Line this up on top of our piece of cardstock. I'm going to kind of move it a little bit so I can hopefully get it lined up on top without getting my head in the shot here of the, I'm going to turn that over since I got just a little tear on it. That lined up on our frame, and then we're going to do the same thing with our cardstock piece that we have here for the card base. Got that a little crooked, I think. Try and make sure we get it on there nice and even. Alright, trying again here. Alright, and there we go. Now we've got our card finished. Thank you so much for watching my video tutorial today. This card is so much fun to make using the stencils, the stamps, and the colors, and helping the mice with their great escape for their friends. Remember to check out more tutorials on the design team page at delbellosdesigns.com. Have a great day!